Careful what happens.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Okay. 1 second, everybody. Sorry for the technical difficulties. Things a little strange today. Trying to change that. Let's see. There we go. Okay, but I don't see, stop video. Interesting. I don't see myself on the Zoom, but okay. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good following morning. Once again, this is AMA number 66 in a row, mind you. Today is June 25th, 2021. It is the Holocaust Survivor Day recap. My special guest right off the plane is our own beloved Rabbi Avi Baumel.
Shalom, everyone. Nice to be here. Nice to be back. It's a pleasure to come back to Krakow, be able to go straight into the most important thing that's happening in Krakow, which is obviously the AMA, not just the AMA, but number 66. I mean, that's important.
66. Can you give us a little gematria on 66?
I can. The gematria is lul, which is a chicken coop. So that has a very important significance.
Lamed Vav Lamed.
There you go, 66. So the significance.
Again, how is that 66? Lamed Vav, isn't it?
Lamed is 30.
Yeah.
And Vav is 6.
Oh, in that sense.
Is 66.
Okay. Couldn't you go like 50? Couldn't you go like? Is that how it works?
New, like for New York, and
right.
Nun Yud Vav.
Yeah.
We could play this game.
Oh, look, Avi showing his rabbinic chops. Wow. Very impressive.
I could come up with a better one than chicken coop. But
I like that. By the way, you talk about chicken coop and lul. When I was on my previous kibbutz, when I first went to Israel, I was on kibbutz Gash. Which is near Netanya, a little south of Netanya, and I worked. Yes, and it was before the government allowed them to develop their land. So it was a very poor kibbutz and now very rich kibbutz. But I worked one day in the lul with the chickens, and I had such a positive experience that I went home and I took off my clothes my kibbutz work clothes that I'd been wearing and threw them away, and I have never eaten meat again, and that was in the beginning of 1994. So there you go. 27 years later, I was very influenced by my time in the lul, which spells 66, which is the number of today's AMA.
I'll share also. I was at a lul once.
Yeah.
And from that day, I also stopped eating meat, and I only eat schnitzel because it doesn't look like the chicken in the lul. I'm close. I'm getting there, but
I was going to say it's very interesting that it's a very sort of fascinating state that you can both be a vegetarian, as you claim, and also eat meat.
Well, it's a certain type of vegetarianism. It's Baumelian, so that's my type. It works for me. Anyway, let's talk about the Holocaust Survivor weekend.
One second. We have a lot of time here, Avi. So let's not rush into everything. Good morning, Jeffrey Rolat and the esteemed Rab Avi. L'chaim to you.
L'chaim, Jeffrey Rolat.
Saul Schachter, the beloved Saul Schachter, wonderful teacher, retired teacher on Long Island. Hi, Saul. Rob and Jonathan together, De Niro and Pacino of the JCC. That could be. Now, which of us is De Niro? Oh, I see that you've already taken the De Niro, and I'm going to be the Pacino. I can do it. I'll be, technically, if I'm, you realize that if I'm Pacino and you're De Niro, you are my father, because everything goes back to, obviously, to The Godfather, and you would be young Vito, and I would then be Michael, your son.
That's a little hard to... Okay, we could play with that.
Just when I thought I was out, they pulled me back in. Oh, hello, Linda Krar. Boker Tov. Boker Or to you, Linda. Anna Panek. Hello from Sao Paulo. Hello, and Marcel. Oh, greetings from Montreal. Marcel, our lodestar. How are you,
Fantastic.
Marcel? We were thinking of you yesterday, Marcel. You were never far from our minds during Holocaust Survivor Day, Marcel. You should know that. You and Marilla were very much on our minds.
Absolutely. When I saw the survivors there, and whenever I see a survivor, I think of the beloved ones, the ones that have touched my heart. And Marcel, you always have a special place for us, our whole family. I always ask about you.
Let's talk a little bit, Avi. Yesterday was the inaugural Holocaust Survivor Day. We'll get everybody up to speed, but of course, you all know about it already. We came up with an idea. Sebastian and I here in Krakow, we wrote I brought it to Michael Berenbaum, Holocaust scholar and good friend of the JCC, good friend of ours, amazing guy. And we wrote an op-ed about it in the Jerusalem Post. Took off a little bit, and then with a little bit of a few phone calls and emails around the world started to get involved and get on board. And we had a whole host of events that I want to talk about today, both online and around the world in person. They're still going on. They're going on this weekend. Synagogues all around the world and communities all around the world, the JCC tonight. But I want to start with an event that was a very exciting event that I was supposed to attend. If you'll remember, I was supposed to go to Israel. In the end, I didn't go to Israel, although I could have as an Israeli citizen. It got very complicated, and Avi, you were trying to help me with that. We were feverishly WhatsApping each other for hours the other night. Essentially, Israel, although I'm an Israeli citizen and I'm vaccinated, I was vaccinated here in Poland where I live, and Israel does not acknowledge foreign vaccinations. So although I had a PCR test before and was negative, and I'm vaccinated, and I would have taken a PCR test at the airport, they also don't see me as vaccinated, so they would have required me to take an antibody test. And my fear was, one, that it would take a while to get the result and I would have to quarantine, and I'm only there for like 2 days. And the other fear was that because of my freakishly strong immune system, I might, and I had my vaccination months ago, that I might not have very high level of antibodies, and they could say, oh, you don't have proper antibodies, you have to quarantine. And as an Israeli citizen, they could have not let me back into the country and I would have not been on the flight. So I decided not to go.
I want you to know my flight today was delayed 45 minutes, sitting in the airplane, and they got on after a while and they said, here's what happened. Someone on the flight coming in got stuck in security for some reason. They didn't tell us exactly what happened. They put him back on the plane.
Wow.
He came back on the plane. Now we're all on the plane.
Did you know who it was on the plane?
No.
They didn't say like he wasn't wearing like a scarlet
No, but they put him in the back of the plane. Now,
they could have put him in the luggage.
I don't know. What does it mean? Oh, you have the corona, and we'll just put you back with that couldn't have been. I have no idea what it was. But Israel is very strict, and Israel has new laws that just came out, and they're very, very crazy about it. And not everyone knows what's going on. I think it was wise to not come because I'm not sure how it would have played out for you. That's the truth.
Well, a few things to that. One, 100%, I realized it was the correct thing not to go. I had so much to do here, and it was very, very busy. And had I had to coordinate the Survivor Day and discuss, do everything and keep an eye on things from Israel and doing what I was doing from a hotel room or for somebody's house, it wouldn't have worked. I needed to be here in Command Central here on Miodova. So that was important for me to be here actually physically. So that was great. And also thinking about in terms of what you say about the flight, considering what's these days a little bit of a chill that is going on with Polish-Israeli relations, Israel very much could have put somebody with corona back on the plane just to send them back to Poland.
There's certainly a chill, and I think that it's actually not bad timing because Israel, the government, is so busy on trying to stay alive that I don't think they have the time to deal with some statements made from the Polish government. Although a few will, but they're still trying to pass their own laws, and they don't have enough seats and votes, and so.
Right.
It got some press, but not all. But in Times of Israel, there was a huge article about the law. Right under it, Holocaust Survivor Day.
Yeah, there we go. We'll take it.
We'll take it. There's some traction.
Right. So maybe let's just, because we're mentioning the law, and we don't fully, to be honest, I don't think Avi and I We discussed it with Sebastian today, who did some research. We don't exactly understand the law, but essentially it has to do with the amount statute of limitations for survivors to get property back, but for restitution issues, that's very complicated. It's a very divisive issue. It's caused a lot of problems between Poland and Israel. We here, we don't just avoid politics because it's uncomfortable, but we are, one, we're not experts on the restitution, and two, we are very much focused on building Jewish life here. And the restitution issue is not something that affects the local Jewish community that much. It more affects Polish-Jewish relations around the world. So I feel that I am constantly speaking about restitution, although it's not much to do with me, but people want me to explain Poland to them, and part of it is restitution. But this law is very complicated, and I don't fully understand what's going on. I apologize for that. By the next episode of the next AMA, I will give you more of a detailed update.
Yeah, I agree. I don't really understand the details of the law. I know it's complicated because Poland thinks that, once they open this Pandora's box, their economy is gonna crash or whatever's gonna happen, and they're just not up to it. And besides, we were victims, and besides, we were moved from around. There's plenty to talk about.
It's complicated.
Yeah,
it's complicated. I just see Toby is saying, our wonderful Ulpan teacher, saying, remind folks that sign up for our Hebrew Ulpan. It ends today. So please, if you're thinking of learning Hebrew, sign up for one of the 4 levels of our Hebrew Ulpan that will start in July, go for, I think, 3 weeks or so. So it's a good thing. Toby's a wonderful teacher, as are the other teachers, and please sign up for our Ulpan. But let's get to it. Yesterday, I want to set the stage. Avi goes with our good friends Eddie and Batya Jacobs, and he gets in the car in Efrat, where there's lots of stuff going on that we'll talk about it, and he drives into heathen den of iniquity, Tel Aviv. But in Tel Aviv is Habima, the National Theater. Go ahead, Rabbi Avi. What did you witness in Habima?
Well, first of all, shout out to Eddie and Batya. They picked me up. I felt like chauffeur driven. They drove me straight to the place. And Colette said, get there early.
Colette Avital, who is the director of all the Holocaust, the center of all Holocaust organizations in Israel. She was a member of Knesset. She was the consul general in New York, and she is a force of nature. Colette Avital.
So she told us to get there early, and we did get there early. We got there 45 minutes early, and that was too late. It was unbelievable.
I want to remind you that it was an event for Holocaust survivors attended by 900 Holocaust survivors. They were you were the last ones there.
Last ones. And there was barely a seat, although it was written for Rabbi Baumel and his wife. And
did you tell them that you knew me? And
I had connections. Thank you very much. It was in the second row. It was very nice. And it was just the sheer sight of, and I sent you some pictures of, the Habima Theatre was full to capacity. It was packed, and it was all survivors. So that is something that you rarely see. And it was emotional.
Well, I understand there were 900 survivors in attendance. Is that the case? There were more than 900 seats there, but I think it was mostly, obviously not only survivors, there were people with them, but I think it was, Colette had mentioned the number.
That's what I understood.
So even if it was 800 or 700, I was saying this, I don't know what's going on in other countries, but I don't know, certainly during Corona, there's no question, but even now after Corona, I'm thinking at the world, when do you have a situation of 900 Holocaust survivors in one place together? I don't think that's considering that the survivors are getting older and the world is the way it is. I don't know how many times you'll have something like that.
I agree. We have pictures if you want to try to. I think I said to Seb.
Yeah, Seb, do you want to show? I'm not sure if we're set up for that, Ola Pulnik, but thank you for your suggestion.
Show some pictures that I sent you. You could try.
We're going to try to put up some pictures. Let me just say, thank you very much, Linda, for your kind words. David Gerfinkel, hello from Hakoach, and good Shabbos. Hakoach, I think that you are in Łódź, so hello to Łódź. a city I proudly escaped from 19 years ago. Hello,
Wow.
David.
Strong words, Linda. Listen, Colette started and said, Jews, survivors from Petah Tikva, raise your hands, and from Bayam, raise your hand, and from there, all throughout the land.
And she went through the whole country.
She went through the country.
Amazing.
And there were
Amazing.
survivors, and everyone was just like, and it was all, that age. They were there. And I want to tell you that it was a very heart-wrenching play. I'll get to that part as well. But before and they were watching it, unbelievable. Before I get to that, there were a lot of speeches, and it started, I'd say, at 10:45. It was like 20 minutes, 25 minutes of speeches, starting with the president, Bougie Herzog.
The incoming. He's not the president yet, right? He's the president-elect, Bougie Herzog.
Followed by the Rosh Mמשלה Khalifi. How do you say that?
He's the foreign minister.
They called him the prime minister.
Will be
rotational prime minister.
Right, Yair Lapid, who is the foreign minister and will be in the power sharing agreement, will be the prime minister after Bennett.
And he spoke very powerfully because his father was a survivor, and
yes.
he talked about when he was young, he heard his father screaming in the middle of the night, and he understood what that meant as time went on. And he had a very powerful message. And as well as there was a member of Knesset in the audience who came and spoke, and her name was Meirav Cohen, and she was in charge of.
So we're looking at photos now. Sebastian's going to show them. If Avi, you want to talk us a little bit through whatever we're seeing on the screen.
We're seeing Habima filled up to capacity with survivors, old. Well, they're old, but from different shapes and different walks of life, and some were religious and some were not religious, and men and women, and they were riveted. They were there for this purpose. They all stayed for certainly the first half an hour. Now
there is
Batya
Jacobs on the left, and Coletta Vital, who herself is a survivor. She was a hidden child, and there she is on the right.
And she also spoke, and another very powerful speaker was, I think, a man named Gad Arieli, and he was the representative of the survivors. And he went and spoke. And he said, I came up with this idea to have a day of survivors like 40 years ago, and no one listened to me. And it was this kind of idea that, we certainly deserve to celebrate and not just to commemorate. So he mentioned these ideas, and they were very powerful. He spoke for a while, a lot of different speakers. Also a message from Ronald Lauder, I think,
yes,
representatives. And then they had something really nice, which is, I'll also sent a picture maybe to you. They had 4 members of, I don't think it was Bnei Akiva, it was some kind of youth group.
Right, like scouts or something.
And they, after the Holocaust survivors spoke, they came and they received it, or they kind of said, we're taking this message from you and we're going to go on with it. And I think that was a really a beautiful way to celebrate the day.
You talk about, I just want to interrupt you for a second and thank you for telling us all about that. I feel like, you were giving me the live update. I feel like I was there with you vicariously, and it was wonderful, even just seeing your photos and the videos that you were sending me. But you mentioned that the survivor said he had this idea 40 years ago. So of course this is a new idea to some degree, but it's not as if nobody ever thought, I think, to do something. It's just, we happen to, I guess, get it out there at the right time, and maybe, timing is everything, and who you tell and how you put it out there. But I, for years and years, have been very influenced by an article that I read, and I just pulled it up now, by Yoram Kanyuk. Yoram Kanyuk was a very controversial Israeli writer who died, who essentially, because he didn't want it to be Jewish in his nationality, because he saw himself as Israel, a whole very complicated thing. If you Google him, you'll see a lot about his identity card and all of this. But he wrote something which I remember reading and being blown away by, and I sent it to people over the years, and I just pulled it up in front of us, and you'll see it's from 2012, a little bit before he died, called, and I'm reading, it was an opinion piece that he wrote in Haaretz saying, celebrate Holocaust Day, make Holocaust Day into Heroes Day, into a wonderful day for the tens of thousands who survived, return to life, and raise children and grandchildren. So he essentially was saying, take Holocaust Survivors Day, Yom HaShoah, and turn it into that day. And he also said, instead of having people go, and it's very interesting, instead of having people all visit Auschwitz, send them to go visit and spend time with the survivors who are there in Israel and being ignored. So a very interesting, controversial, provocative piece that he wrote, and it stuck with me for years and years. Now, changing Yom HaShoah into something else is a little bit more difficult, and you're touching something sacrosanct stuff. So I think our idea owes a lot to Yoram Kaniuk's idea of this, and instead of changing Yom HaShoah, which we didn't want to do, we decided that we would try to add an additional day to the calendar, and there you go.
Another thing that Gad Ariel talked about, and he really gave a very powerful speech. And in addition to this thing that I was mentioning, he also said, I never liked the idea of March of the Living being in Poland. I thought it should be a march, I think, from Har Herzl to the Knesset or something like this. So that trope exists also. Like, these people are in Israel, and we should celebrate where we are and who we are here. And I think Colette spoke, and this was a chilling thing that she said, and I think I sent it to you, that 40 survivors die every day.
Yeah.
And when you put it in those numbers, like, we don't think about it. We just think that, they're disappearing because they are. But today, 40 died.
Right.
And that's 40 stories, and that's 40 families, and it's 40 communities, and it's 40, memories. And, that's a very, very powerful thing that I walk away with from that day, that there are still 200,000, but we're losing them all the time. And they knew, the survivors, they say, I won't be around here so much longer, but this is important for me.
I'm very aware of the timing, and living here in Krakow as we do, and being so, obviously, we're in a very special place. One, we're taking care of our own survivors, which other communities are also doing, but we're doing all of this in the context of being next to Auschwitz. And I've felt for a while that we have a particular responsibility. Communities, people visit Auschwitz, and a large amount of those people, Jews particularly, that visit Auschwitz will also come here. So we are connected to their vision of the Holocaust. Their experience of the Holocaust has to do with them coming here to Krakow. And as Rabbi Paley said yesterday, that he went to Auschwitz and came to the JCC, and that was one of his important takeaways, is that I'm mindful of the timing of all of this. The idea of it being too late, I think it's not. Obviously, anytime you have an idea, you wish you would have done it earlier for anything. Anybody who bought Google stock wishes they bought it, earlier, or did anything, should have done anything earlier. Fair enough. But, you can't fix that, right? This idea, and I said it in one of these interviews, in one of the articles, the best day to plant a tree was 50 years ago, and the second best day is today. Fair enough. But it is a good quote. But I'm very mindful of something, which is that once all the Holocaust survivors die, we enter into a new phase in terms of where the Holocaust exists in the collective consciousness and the identity of the Jewish people. And if something starts while there are still survivors, then it's part of it. It becomes part of it. Now, maybe we'll have to say, wait, we're celebrating Holocaust Survivor Day while there are no survivors. Should we? You know what? We absolutely, I think, still should. It's not only for the survivors, it's also about the survivors, but also this idea, which is to me personally, very, very important. The Holocaust, learning about the Holocaust and commemorating the Holocaust can't only be about the loss. It can only be. At the end of the day, they tried to do something to us, and they failed. They did not succeed in getting rid of Jewry and getting rid of European Jewry. And part of all of this commemoration, which obviously must focus on 1.5 million children murdered and the 6 million murdered and the communities destroyed, of course. But part of that, there needs to be space to say, wait a minute, they didn't get away with what they wanted to get away with. They did terrible damage to us, but they didn't succeed. And we need to show the rest of the world that we Jews are not only victims, that we're also, resilient and strong and show our strength, especially at a time of increased anti-Semitism. So it's so important to me that we don't just say our whole message to the world isn't be nice to us because in the past you weren't nice to us. I feel that the message should be nice to us because in the past you weren't, but you know what? No matter what you do to us, we're still here. And it's a comma instead of a period.
That's great. Relating to what you're saying, we've been doing this for so many years. And you say the timing, and we're in Krakow, and they go to Auschwitz, and then they come to us for dinner, and we talk about revival. We speak about it so often and so much, and we look to our kindergarten kids, or we look to our young people who find out that they're Jewish, and that's a beautiful story, but it's part of the story. And what's amazing about being here in Krakow, and everyone feels it, is that the other part of the story is also here, because there's a survivor that's just sitting in the room too. So what we have here is this beautiful kind of perfect mixture of, the survivors that made it through, and somehow we're catering to them and still helping them out. And at the same time, sometimes it's their own grandchildren that are coming back, and we're making that connection to them. So that is something that is so much on everyone's minds, that it's not just, obviously we're not making a day only to commemorate those who passed, right? That there is a day for that, and that's significant. We can't forget our history. Here we're commemorating a day that, and you spoke about this in the prayer that we talked about, is that it's a day to celebrate the survivors and to give us the responsibility of recognizing those survivors and receiving, what they taught us, and then trying to be the ambassadors for the next one. So that kind of, generational aspect to this is a very important part, which is why it was great to have second generation and third generation.
Yeah.
And where do we go from here? That all of this needs to be going on, and luckily it happens in our own building.
I'm very mindful, and I think it adds a lot to it. And I don't say our idea because it was our idea. I think the idea that from Krakow, from the place that was the community adjacent to Auschwitz, the epicenter of the Holocaust, the most visible, well-known sign of the Holocaust, where 1.1 million Jews were murdered. I think the idea that a holiday from Krakow that's focused on life and not death carries an additional meaning and additional weight.
Beautiful. I want to share a story. I think I shared it with you, that it's rather humorous. The event is over, and everyone very slowly, because it's 900 old people trying to get out of the building, but also a whole bunch of them trying to use the bathroom. And the toilets there were not sufficient, and we were in the men's room, and it was me and Eddie, and then like 10 survivors came in, and I'm like, I need to go, but they're like these 92-year-old people that I'm like, no, please, you got to go there.
Did you let all 10 of them go in front of you?
No, I did not. I'm sorry. But
an honest man.
I struck up a conversation with one of them, and like, it's a little weird having conversation in the toilet, but I sought him out after we did our business, and we started talking, and it's like, it's like talking to, my experience with him, it's just like talking with Marcel or Bernard or certain survivors, that they're filled with life, and they're happy with their lives, and they went through what they went through, but they're still ready to continue going on. And that's how, in the moment that I had a conversation with him, he said, listen, I'm 92. I came here in 46. I lost, everything there, but they gave me a gun. And I started fighting, and I fought 48, and I fought 56, and I built my family. And in a 2-minute conversation, with 3 minutes, I said, I have to go. And he said, I've done my share, and I'm leaving the future in your hands, but ani somech alecha. I trust you. I rely on you. You're going to do it. And I was like, wow, that's what a beautiful ending to this powerful day for me, that I'm able to just meet, and there were 900 of them, and meet this guy, and we keep going forward. I want to share what the play was about, which is, I don't remember the name of it, something about finding your place. Now, it is a play that takes place in 1949 in Israel. And it's in a shikun, like it's in one of those little apartments, which was split, which there was a mother and her daughter who came from Greece, who were searching for her her husband and father and whatever, and Polania and her son, her daughter, and her son and her daughter-in-law. And then there was the Makolik guy. It was various personalities, and each one, and this was a true story, based on true stories, and each one was a powerful representation of what it means to be a survivor. And they would, it's centered on a radio, an old radio, and on the hour, everyone would hush because there would be announcements of who's trying to get a hold of you. And they told the story of, and the daughter-in-law constantly crossing herself. And I was trying to, as Hebrew, so I was trying to figure out, it took me 20 minutes to figure out, and they finally developed it that she was saved because she was in a convent.
Oh, yeah.
So then she said, it's natural, I can't help myself. And
Right.
She was singing Ave Maria, but she was Gita, her name, she was a real, she was a Jewish girl. And then the husband came from America, who had escaped earlier, and then he was out of place, and they were all struggling to deal with their loss and to try to build up Israel, which was desert. And it was very, very powerful and very emotional, and there were tears in the audience because they're saying, when one finds out that she saw her husband or her parents going into the furnace, it tells a story. It's very raw. And I remember talking with Batya, and she's like, I can't believe it. They're talking about this. I said, no. These survivors, I think they can handle it. They've been through it, and but it was very moving, and it didn't, there's no happy endings the way that Hollywood likes. It's really like reality, that they stayed in Israel and they kept building, and now they helped build a state. So that's all part of what Colette would manage to accomplish. I don't exactly know how it happened, but it happened, and it was beautiful.
It's amazing. I'm so happy, Avi, that you were there. I'm sad I missed it, but knowing that you were there representing us and the community made it much more tolerable for me not to be there. I'll talk a little bit about other stuff that's going on around the world on Holocaust Survivor Day, just to have some notes here. We have some at the JCC. We had some in-person events. One is a fantastic exhibition. We had the pre-opening just for the community on Wednesday, which is the Lanka project. Lanka was the nickname of the woman who, that was her name, and she started this project, photographer. 300 photographers in 30 countries took portraits of Holocaust survivors, but like among the best photographers in all these countries, including our own Chuck Fishman. I took these photos. It was in the UN, it was in Tel Aviv, it was in Berlin, and this is the first, we at JCC Krakow are the first ones to be hosting this in Poland. I don't think you had a chance to see it yet. You have to see it. It's absolutely unbelievable. But what was really amazing is that there's a photo of me and Marcel, me and Bernard, Marcel, a photo of me and Bernard together on the bicycle, on the tandem that Chuck took, which is an amazing photo that was in the UN, and Chuck told me about that. But on the wall to the right is Sir Ben Helfgott, who is a survivor who lives in the UK, whose son, who is an Olympic weightlifting champion, amazing guy, whose 80th birthday party I went to years ago, who's now I think 91 or so, whose son, Morris Helfgott, is the head of the board of trustees of World Jewish Relief.
Wow.
And then me and Bernard are in the photo. It's really Bernard, but I happen to be on the bike. So Bernard and I, that is one side is Sir Ben Helfgott, photo of me and Bernard, and on the other side is an amazing photo of Marian Tursky. Now we should talk about Marian for a moment, because Marian's birthday is Holocaust Survivor Day, and Marian, an amazing photo from a year ago, so a year and a half, when he was 93, of him shaving. It looks great, an amazing photo. So I'm like, wow, I'm in pretty good company that I'm on the bike with Bernard. I got Sir Ben Helfgott to the right of me, and I got Marian Tursky to the left. So Marianne's birthday is tomorrow, June 26th. And originally when we looked for a day, what day? We thought of this idea, and it could have been any day, right? It could have been any day. And we looked at a bunch of different days, and then we thought, listen, it has to be something positive, right? It can't be the date of the ghetto liquidation or something, right? Clearly, it's celebrating the survivors, right? So it has to be the day of a liberation or someone's birthday. So we thought about it a little bit, and we came up with who, Marian Turski, who's really, I think at this point, the best known Polish survivor living in Poland. And I thought it meant a lot to me that he stayed in Poland, right? He stayed in Poland, and he talked last night about it, and I'll talk about the panel, why he stayed in Poland, remarkable, but just a remarkable humanist, wonderful, just a lovely, lovely, impressive, brilliant human being. And it's one of those people that you feel blessed every second that you're around him.
Yeah,
so,
I met him, and I was very moved, and I kind of got a feeling that he was like the conscience of
yes.
Poland's survivor. And I remember the speech that he gave where he talked about the Holocaust z nieba.
That's right. He said it didn't come from the Holocaust didn't fall from the sky. It
very, very, very powerful.
People being, don't be indifferent.
Don't be indifferent.
Right.
And so amazing. That from this guy.
Right. And we put that on the poster. And when we talked to Marian, we went to Marian with this idea. We said, listen, we want to do Holocaust Survivor Day. He said two things. Yeah, two conditions, but he asked us two things. He said, one, don't make it about me. I don't want it to be Marian Turski Day. We said, no problem. We want it to be about all the survivors. And he also said he'd love us to use don't be indifferent. He thought that was an important thing, and we did, and it's on the poster, which is downstairs, and it's on all the material that we've used. So this exhibition downstairs is wonderful. You'll see that later. And we're having, the next thing, we're having Shabbat dinner tonight, a special survivor Shabbat dinners. We've invited all the survivors around the south of Poland. I think we're going to have about 25 or 30 survivors with us tonight that could make it. Some people needed help getting here. We sent cars wherever we needed to and putting them up in hotels and doing all that to have them here. And we'll eat dinner in the room where this exhibition is, which will be nice. They'll see some of their friends there. We're dedicating a tree in our courtyard to the survivors. So it'll be the Holocaust Survivor Day tree in honor of all of our survivors. And we had an online event with women survivors yesterday, and they talked about the Holocaust like from a women's perspective. So I thought those are our activities at JCC. And of course, yesterday we had a big panel. We had 4 panels actually, and that was sort of shared all over the world by all different organizations. So we brought 80 organizations in the end came together to celebrate Holocaust Survivor Day with us. We had a panel with the opening panel was me, Stephen Smith, from the head of the Shoah Foundation, Colette Avital, Ulrika Citron, who is a well-known survivor. She's a survivor advocate living in New York. She's originally from Sweden. Her family is Dutch. She's involved all over Europe and very much in New York with survivors as the daughter of a survivor. And we also had Michael Paley on the panel. So it was the 5 of us on the panel. Very powerful.
I was listening to it. It was very, very interesting.
And then we had, thank you. And then we were very happy with that. But really what was exciting is that in the beginning, we had a few recorded videos that people sent to us. One, Ronald Lauder. We had Marcy Gringlass from the Seed the Dream Foundation, very involved in Holocaust issues. We had Greg Schneider and Gideon Taylor from the Claims Conference. And we had Mark Wilf, who is the head of JFNA, of the federations in America, also pretty known to you if you're a football fan as the owner of the Minnesota Vikings. What was exciting, though, that Stephen Smith, at the end of the panel, we had a great panel. At the end, he brought us 2 surprises. Amazing. One, he brought us, they have all these testimonies, over 50,000 testimonies that the Shoah Foundation has taken. And they edited pieces out from the end where they're talking about their message for the future, which was amazing, from these survivors speaking. And then also he brought us, which was pretty exciting, a message from the man himself, Steven Spielberg, who's done so much for survivors, founder of the Shoah Foundation, film Schindler's List, has done so much to let the world know about the Holocaust and a real survivor advocate. And he, we didn't approach him. He wanted to do it and sent us a recording.
So cool.
So that was pretty amazing. I have to say, you have an idea, and then Steven Spielberg is talking about it. It's pretty cool. And then we had 3 panels afterwards: a survivor panel led by Michael Berenbaum, and then a 2G and a 3G panel. And it was some of the people on the 3G panel told me that they'd never been or never seen a panel like that of just grandchildren of survivors. So we wanted to kind of explore all different angles in what we did around online. Around the world, there was stuff in all different countries. It's amazing. UJA is doing something today in New York, and the Metropolitan Council, the Met Council, they call it the Metropolitan Council on Jewish Property, doing a volunteer project for Holocaust Survivor Day. They're packing groceries that will serve 2,000 homebound Holocaust survivors and 1,300 homebound seniors in low-income housing for this Sunday. They're packing. The International March of the Living created 2 beautiful films. March of the Living Australia, meeting with Holocaust survivors. Long Island, there were meetings all around the UK. And a special shout out to Lord Pickles and Sally Seeley, who did just wonderful, wonderful events all around the UK, including an event by Arsenal. If any of you are football fans, soccer fans, Arsenal did something. Dozens of events across the US. There was we did a TV piece on Fox 5. Stephen Smith wrote a great article in the Jewish Journal. Times of Israel, and Boris Johnson, the UK Prime Minister, talked about Holocaust Survivor Day on Twitter, tweeted about it. So we had just amazing buy-in across the Jewish world, and I couldn't believe, over 80 organizations joined us.
I like what you said the other day, that this day exceeded your expectations. When you come up with an idea and it sounds like a good idea, it should work, but we know that these things don't always pan out. And the efforts, and here, it's the amount of work that Seb has put into it and all the other members of the staff, the efforts that it takes to get an idea off the ground to make it into reality is something that, I was able to watch as a member of the committees, but to just be in awe of something that comes from conception to implementation and beyond, because this is year 1. So
yeah. I tell you what, it's been very interesting. I think that, why were we sitting around? Normally we're so busy that we don't really have much time. And Paul Anticoni, the head of World Jewish Relief, who's really, one of my mentors, is always telling me, Jonathan, you need to carve time out for yourself. And really the same for Seb, to be able to have a little distance, be able to think, don't always be, looking at the what you're doing in the day to day. You need to let your brain have that distance from things to think. And I think Corona, for all the negative, it gave us a little bit, not that we weren't busy, we were incredibly busy keeping things open and running and not having the lights shut off here. But the idea of having a little bit of a break from the normal, that I'm traveling all the time and running around the world, being here in Krakow gave us a little more time to think. And Seb and I came up with this, and it's been a fascinating exercise of taking an idea and what do you do with that idea, right? First of all, to me, it's been interesting. Who knows, right? Just like you say, who knows? There's no book about how to rebuild Jewish life in a post-Holocaust, society in Poland. What we've been doing here at the JCC, there's not really. You can learn a little bit.
Now there should be.
Now there might be, but there hasn't been much to learn. But also, how do you create a holiday, a Jewish holiday? You can't. It's not something that maybe governments can do it, or the Israeli government declares. But me, as Jonathan Ornstein, how do you do that? So I think the first thing was to go to somebody to see if it made sense as an idea. So I bounced it off you, and bounced it off a few different people, and Piotr Wyszlicki in Warsaw, and really Michael Barenbaum, I think, was the first call. And I said, we have this idea, as a Holocaust scholar, does it make sense? Or are we missing something? To us, it's like a no-brainer. Like how he goes, you're right, no-brainer.
That's not easy to have a guy like Michael
straight
Barenbaum,
away. Right, and we decided to put the op-ed in the Jerusalem Post, kind of got some traction, but then really just letting people know and putting it out there, and then you see at the end, you reach a sort of tipping point. And I think it's with anything. Once people know, and it starts to, they let people know. When people know about things, not from you, right? When they start to build its own, I don't want to say go viral, but starts to build its own momentum and gets a life of its own, then you realize that you have a chance. And the last few days, I feel like the whole world heard about it. We couldn't get enough phone calls about people who were like, great idea. We'd love to be part of it.
No, that's what I'm saying. I think that what made this possible, a lot of people have ideas, and a lot of good ideas come out. The committees that you created, that created this idea. The idea that you said, listen, here's a great idea, but there are like 40 organizations that have been working on this for all these years. If I just decide to declare it and I don't include them and make them partners and make them buy into it because they realize that this is obviously the idea, then it's going to be a flop because people are going to feel offended. After all, they worked their hearts out for all these years. And then you say, hey, I have an idea. Can you join us and can you help us make it? Then of course, who wouldn't? Because it makes so much sense. And did you not touch on every single organization that has been dealing with it for all these years?
I would say every organization, but yeah, if I took a look yesterday just because you're so involved in something, it's hard to get any distance. So even after all of this was sort of done, I did take a look and I was like, wow, that's really a good chunk, certainly of American Jewry and a good part of world Jewry there.
And then you got this committee, and then you managed to get it functioning and come up with ideas, and people in different committees and people came up with different, and look at us, it came alive.
It's a lot of fun.
So
I'll tell you what, it's a lot of fun. I like running stuff and building stuff, and things like this was right up my alley. So I have to say, I truly enjoyed the process. Of course, with Sebastian by my side the whole time doing it, it's been a fun ride. But there's a lot more to do. Getting something off the ground is just getting it off the ground. You got to keep it afloat. So I think one other issue to me that was interesting is that you talked about sort of letting people get involved and giving them buy-in. You have to cede control a little bit. But I thought also something that we came up with straight away that was clear to me was that I didn't want to tell people how to celebrate Holocaust Survivor Day.
Brilliant.
Communities around the world have different needs. The community in Zurich might not have survivors in need. They might, but the community in Brooklyn and Coney Island does. And whatever the survivors need, however communities want to commemorate this day and celebrate this day, I thought that they should do it. I am the last person to tell survivor communities or communities around the world what their survivors need and what they need and how they should do it. So I thought that was important. We made a decision straight away that this is going to be very open source, right? We say, here's Holocaust Survivor Day. Here are some ideas that we've heard that other communities are doing. Do what you want with it. Take a day, focus on the survivors, let kids write them letters, call them, let rabbis speak about, give them an aliyah in synagogue, let them make a speech about them, bake them cookies and put it on their door, whatever. This one somehow be focused on and be about the survivors. And that was it.
And I think what's beautiful about it also was that it actually worked out really nicely to be a Thursday and then a Shabbos, because it's not everyone can deal with just a Thursday. Some people
Right.
some communities are Shabbos oriented,
Right.
and therefore it will be something like that's happening in Efrat with Rabba Batya. She's doing a program
Right.
at Kiddush. Kids are involved, survivors are
Beautiful.
involved. And then she took this prayer and she got every synagogue in Efrat to get a letter saying, you should recite this on Shabbat.
I know who I was putting on the committee.
She's unbelievable. She's unbelievable.
That's
That's how
amazing.
you get things done. And
Yeah.
imagine if other communities got behind this, and this would become, we recite a million mishaberichs, there's for anything you can think of. And a little something for survivors should be part of our liturgy. So that's an honor for me to have a little bit of
Helped me with the prayer.
I've
written the
to
prayer.
help you write the prayer, John.
No, Rabbi Avi did an amazing job writing the prayer, and I think a beautiful job, and then getting it translated, which wasn't so easy. And I'd like you at the end here, before we close, I'd like you to read the prayer, if you would.
Sure.
So I think it's a beautiful, really beautiful prayer. I think that it's clear to me that this was the inaugural Holocaust Survivor Day, but not the only Holocaust Survivor Day. Everybody who's been involved is, said, oh, I think the article, Stephen Smith, who's such an amazing guy, I think it was something like, oh, my first Holocaust Survivor Day or something was the title, or there was something about that right in the beginning. And I think that it's clear to everyone that this is something that will continue, and that there's the potential for doing a lot of good. And I think a lot of my summer is going to be thinking about what that should look like. In other words, here's an idea. What kind of, should it have structure? Do we create an NGO? Do we have employees? Do we run it out of Krakow? Do we set something up in New York? What should that look like? And that's sort of what's floating around my head. And luckily, I am a very, very rich person, because I have a lot of amazing, amazing friends that I've met around the world, and people that are leaders in just in the sort of, not only the survivor space, but just in the Jewish communal space, and will give me some advice. And I'm going to ask people like Cheryl and Gustance Fishbein and some people that can help me with that, and Mark Meaden at UJA. And I want to really give this, think about what it should look like. How can we have the most effect? Because what I'm certain of is that we did, I think, a reasonable job of getting it off the ground. But next year, I don't think Holocaust Survivor Day should just be me and Seb and our little team here running everything.
Sounds great. I want you to know I wrote a few articles about this that you shared, and one of them was that I'm going to call my grandmother. I'm going to call Oma. Yeah. And I called Oma yesterday, and I wished her happy.
Did you tell her about Holocaust Survivor?
Of course.
Did she like the idea?
She loved the idea.
Loved the Oma.
Idea. And I told her that I'm going to, God willing, I'm going to visit her in August, all being well. So maybe if you're in New York by that time.
I will be in New York in August, and I would not. Avi has an amazing, amazing grandmother, but I mean regal. She's regal is the word, and she is a survivor. Avi's actually, there's a lot of interesting things about Avi. One is that he's a 27th generation rabbi, which I heard yesterday because there's a photo of Rabbi Lau downstairs who's like a 45th. So he's got you beat. But all right, Lau is Lau. Besides the Lau family, you're doing well. 27th generation rabbi, but you are also the grandchild of one Sugihara survivor and one Kindertransport survivor. So that's some pretty impressive Holocaust.
She sounded great.
And how old? 91, 92?
92.
She's doing way.
Born 28, so November, another birthday coming.
And Forest Hills, the Forest Hills girl. Forest Hills girl.
Forest Hills. Shanghai and Tokyo and
Germany and
yeah. Thank God. So it was an honor for me to participate and to be in touch with her about it. Yeah. So we have here the prayer.
I will read the introduction to the prayer, if I may, and then I will ask. I wrote something, and then I will ask you to read the prayer, Ali. Our hope is that this prayer, or a prayer of your own, will be recited on Holocaust Survivor Day to bless, honor, and remember the survivors, and to remind us to walk proudly in their footsteps.
May God, who blessed our ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah, bless and protect, guide, and continue to inspire the holy souls who survived the Holocaust, in particular, my grandmother, Malka Bas Miriam. They who have lived through the greatest darkness, yet succeeded in rebuilding their lives and restoring light to the world. Please bestow upon them your own hallowed light, envelop them in your loving kindness, and grant them continued long and meaningful life. O God, please give us the strength and means to support our survivors. Allow us to hear their message of resilience and hope. They, our greatest heroes, our lodestar, our vision of holiness. May we be imbued with their spirits, carry on their life force, and teach their lessons of love and courage to the next generations.
Amen.
Amen.
And you heard it here. You heard it here first, folks. A prayer, a bracha on the AMA.
There you go.
Doesn't happen every day.
That's it.
Avi Bauman, my friend.
It was a pleasure. Thank you for inviting me. Holy number 66.
Be well, everybody. Shabbat shalom.